no.
I cannot believe now, having watched this movie, that they gave away a very important plot point in the movie by using that song. But anyway, I'm gonna need you guys watching to answer me very honestly the question I'm gonna ask you at some point in this video, because I'm seriously curious. But for now, I'm gonna start by saying I haven't been a fan of Marvel for a very long time. Everything they've been putting out lately has just been awful or abysmal or painfully boring or cringy. Then when I heard that Thunderbolts was coming out, the only reason I even had a sliver of interest was because of Bucky.
Is that Bucky?
That's not good.
Yeah, that was pretty much basically it. Oh yeah, and Hopper from Stranger Things, which is a cute kind of bonus, but not enough on its own. I skipped Black Widow completely, because honestly, what was the point? She's dead. And yeah, I knew about the knockoff Captain America from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I couldn't even bring myself to finish that freaking show. It was just so freaking boring and cringy. It felt really heavy-handed with these weird political messaging that didn't even feel true to the characters. And honestly, outside of Loki, there hasn't been a single Marvel project lately that's made me care. I do like Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and that last movie was actually pretty good. I mean, it was stupid, but it had all the Peter Parkers, you know, yay, nostalgia and whatever. But aside from that and Loki, Marvel's just been white noise to me, to be honest. And my husband's actually the one who talked me into seeing Thunderbolts in the first place. Then I saw that one cool moment in the trailer with Bucky, and I thought, okay, you know what? Why not?
What?
At first, I wasn't sure how to feel. This movie was definitely different from the usual Marvel tone. And I'll give it this, they were trying something different. Just be aware that I'm showing trailer footage and they spoil a bunch of stuff in the trailer. The first thing I need to talk about is Yelena. I usually keep one foot out the door whenever I see female lead characters nowadays because of how badly they're written. It's like the people behind these scripts either have no idea what a good woman actually is, or they're pushing some kind of agenda that ends up making women look worse. It's almost like they have a vendetta against women or something, and they're trying to make them look like evil shits every chance they get. Good grief, I did not expect to say this, but Yelena was absolutely amazing. I know, gasp, I love her character. She's got this dry, deadpan humor that just totally fits her, and it doesn't feel very forced at all. She's got this kick-ass look. I don't know, dude, something about her just works. She's a badass, but not in that obnoxious, try-hard kind of way. She says she's a piece of shit throughout the whole movie, and maybe morally she kind of is, but that just makes me like her more. They do the introduction with her doing the whole Deadpool sitting on the edge. Then they do the Miles Morales fall. I don't know, that's what it just kind of reminded me of. Kind of like the same pose going on. And I like how they don't try to make it look as though she's the perfect person. And she doesn't either. She's bored with her life, and it kind of felt like the show Barry. And to be honest, I ended up loving the characters. They work really well together as a team. The only one who didn't really stand out to me much was Ghost, or aka Ava, which is kind of ironic given her name and her ability. She mostly blended into the background and functioned as a plot device more than anything else. And early on, she had a bit more presence when they were getting the group dynamic going, but after that, she was just, I don't know, kind of there and kind of not. She's just very forgettable. Like, you'll notice the other faces, and then you're like, oh wait, why do I keep forgetting this person exists, even though I see them in every single shot with the other characters? Sorry, but nothing stands out about her, and I have to actually remember that she was even there. Like, I have to really reach inside my brain and remind myself that there was an extra person there. Now, I don't know if that was on purpose because she's a ghost or that's her power, but I wish they would have explored her character a bit more. But the interplay between the rest of them, that's what kind of made the movie shine. The back and forth was kind of sharp, had a rhythm to it, didn't feel forced, and I would now 100% watch the next thing that Yelena shows up in, as long as they keep her character like this. And I've seen people say, like, oh, she doesn't have star power. I kind of disagree with that. She's very grungy and emo, and it might not be the traditional Tony Stark type of power, but she stands out to me. I mean, she actually made me tempted to go back and watch Black Widow. Red Guardian, her dad, he was adorable. He and John Walker kind of have similar macho personalities, but somehow they both manage to feel distinct. And I think these people actually feel like a real chaotic mix of characters that work really well together. Then we get the wild card of the whole mix, Bob. Oh my god, I freaking love Bob. He felt like the best thing about this movie. Now, my husband went into this movie already knowing who he was and what his deal was gonna be, but I didn't. As a matter of fact, I only watched the first trailer for the Thunderbolts, which was probably good. And I don't even remember most of it. I think I skipped past it or didn't want to really watch all of it or something. Or maybe I did, I don't know. But thank goodness that's all all I watched. Because from what I've seen after coming home and working on this video, they spoiled a hell of a lot in the other trailers. And even in the original one, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, when Bob showed up and started becoming more central to the story, he ends up carrying a lot of the emotional weight of the movie, and you want to see more of him every time he's on screen. He's so adorable. And I'm like, oh my god, I just don't want anything to happen to Bob. I'd be very, very freaking sad if something happened to Bob. You just have this overwhelming sensation of wanting to be his friend and wanting to protect him, which if that's what they were going for, they did a great job. And look, I gotta give some flowers to the villain too, Fontaine or Valentina whatever her full name is. Like, she didn't come off like your typical Marvel villain. She acts more like a politician, and she is a piece of shit. She's not the smartest tack in a rhino's behind, and she's very stupid in situations where you'd expect her to like understand that she's laying it on a bit thick. You're like, dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be good at this. This is supposed to be something that is a walk in the park for you, and that's how you're handling this? Laying it on a bit thick, are we? But I think that was just due to overconfidence. And she's so slimy, she ends up slithering her way out of all of the consequences. And I kind of respect that. I hate her, and you hate that that happens, but I also want to see her around more, especially to the point where she can be comfortable with her character. Now, the other thing I gotta talk about is Bucky. I really love Bucky, and he's my favorite thing about the Winter Soldier movie. It felt like, honestly, in Thunderbolts, like they were writing a love letter to longtime fans with how they handled his entrance. Yeah, sure, it was pretty much spoiled in the trailer. I mean, that would have been great for us to see that for the first time in the theaters. Would have been one of those moments everyone would have been standing and clapping. But even knowing that he was coming, it was so freaking badass. That music that plays when he shows up chasing those guys down on his bike like the freaking Terminator, pretty sure that's what they were pulling from. The glasses, him coming out of the smoke, the freaking windmill thing he does with the, is it a shotgun? Look how he grabs it, cocks it, and spins it. That's exactly what the Terminator does. Freaking badass. Gave me the chills. That one scene alone is enough to satisfy me if we never get to see him again. That's how good that scene was. But to be honest, after that, much as I love Bucky, he kind of just fades into the background. Almost like this should have been the ending scene for him or something. I didn't think I'd ever say that. He's more reserved, like, than the others, which makes sense for his character. But you got all these big personalities. He came in like this and just went quiet, but all the bigger personalities took up center stage on the screen, and there's already enough characters, so he kind of gets lost in the noise. Both Bucky and Ava kind of share that same energy, and Bucky's not big enough of a character as he was in the Winter Soldier for me to even remember that he was there. If I didn't already know who he was and really liked his character, I would have forgotten he was in the movie, outside of that action scene. The dynamic between Red Guardian, Discount Captain America, Yelena, and Bob, that's what I like. Boom, 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 and Bob. That's it. That's all that's needed. Otherwise, the team kind of feels bloated. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I genuinely want to see more movies with these characters. Marvel actually got me caring about them again. Like, good job, Marvel. I really like this team. Bucky and Ghost and whoever else doesn't need to be there. And I don't even know why this chick is there in the first place, because, spoilers, this bitch is dead. She died really early. She said like one line and then died. Now let's talk about the storyline.
You ever drive through Oklahoma? It's so flat.
Now, I know some people have been saying this movie feels like one long therapy session, and honestly, you could call it that, but I actually like that they went the extra mile with the concept. It's not one of those situations where the team can just punch their way through the problem. Each of these characters have trauma. Yelena has to use or solve a problem by using her empathy, and if she had never gone through her darkness or whatever it was that she was dealing with, she wouldn't have been able to solve that problem. Now, I understand most people won't like that, especially if you're going to a Marvel movie expecting it's going to be full of action, which it still is, but that ending of Thunderbolts, probably, it might not resonate with everyone who's used to a certain type of Marvel movie, and that's completely understandable. But that moment was all about, hey, these characters are humans, and they're more so people and able to reach people without using their powers, sort of. And I think that's something Marvel's been missing for a while. It reminded me of what we got with Rocket and the Guardians of the Galaxy, or even Peter Parker in No Way Home. It's that very human core, that reminder that these aren't just, oh, superheroes with superpowers. They're flawed, hurting people trying to figure things out and deal with the cards they got dealt in this heavy responsibility. For a long time, Marvel started writing their heroes more like parodies of themselves, and the characters started to feel more like hollow archetypes with comedic lines and weird dialogue, but no real depth to them. This movie still has a little bit of that, but I think it did a much better job of making these characters, at least Yelena and Bob, feel like real people again, and that's what makes them relatable, and that's what made me care. There's actually one scene, I'm not gonna say which one, where I was just full on tears were falling, man. It hit me in the feels feels. But anyway, from here on out, there's going to be heavy spoilers. So the general plot of the movie is that Yelena ends up doing one last job for the villain, Valentina. She soon discovers that she, along with a few other assassins, have been sent on a mission that's actually a setup meant for them to eliminate each other and get wiped out in the process. They eventually realize what's going on, that Valentina wanted to get rid of them all, to get rid of her evidence of what she was working on, so they decide to work together. And during this revelation, they come across my favorite character, Bob, a random guy who literally pops out of a box. He was presumed dead during early experiments, and Bob is super sweet, really kind, and wants to help his friends. He ends up sacrificing himself so the rest of the team can escape, but when the firing squad tries to take him out, it quickly becomes clear that he's basically this universe's version of Superman. Bullets don't work on him, and he can fly, plus a whole other issues. My husband described him as a mix between Legion and Superman, and yeah, I figured out exactly what that meant real quick. Yeah, the guy is literally a problem. The team escapes, but once they understand what he is, they decide to go back and help him because they don't want to leave one of their friends behind, and they start working together, and that's basically the plot. By the end, they form a bond, and they basically become friends. The movie suffers from a fair amount of contrivances and convenient foolishness that push the plot forward in ways that don't really make any sense, which kind of robs it of some of the depth that they could have taken advantage of. And at times, the cast kind of feels bloated, as I've said before. For a lot of people, this is the real introduction, or the first real introduction to a lot of these characters. You know, for people who don't just sign into every subscription service and watch other things or watch other movies that they have to be forced to watch even though the movies are ass. And it's clear that the writers aren't quite sure what to do with all of the characters at times. Not gonna lie, there's also a very generic quality to the tone, as if the film is trying a little too hard to be the next Avengers. But to be fair, that's kind of joked about in the movie. But I think for the general audience, they're gonna know pretty quick that when it comes to holding attention, these ensemble things are kind of wishy-washy because we haven't spent years following these characters through individual arcs, or at least big popular ones, so the emotional payoff just really isn't there for a lot of people. And in that way, it feels more like Marvel's version of Suicide Squad. Just the rag team of misfits thrown together who are good at killing and end up being friends, which isn't inherently a bad thing. But I imagine longtime Marvel fans are probably going to find it a little underwhelming or shallow compared to the franchise's more developed ensemble pieces, where you're following all these much more popular characters on their own journeys separately first in their own movies and stuff before they came together and they're more mainstream. That being said, I like the movie for what it is, but here's a question I have to ask you guys. I told you I was going to ask you in the intro. And that question is,
Am I tripping?
Seriously, that is the question. Because I honestly don't know whether or not I have a bout of Stockholm Syndrome, or whatever you would call it, for this specific situation in which we've been giving so many bad movies from Marvel that when one half decent one comes along, it feels like the best thing ever, like a freaking glass of water in the bowels of hell's desert. The same way if I was captured by someone and they were torturing me every single day of my life, I would look forward to the once in a blue days when it's good, and I do everything in my power to try and get that again, even though I'm dying inside. And I find like it's hard to trust. What is this? Yeah, I'm finding it kind of hard to trust it. But the thing is, I'm fully aware this is not a perfect movie, but it was entertaining. I think the characters are likable. But could it just be because the previous installations of Marvel, at least most of them in recent time, have just been really bad, lackluster characters and just really lackluster productions, that this feels really good? The message doesn't feel like any of the audience members are being vilified, but more so it seems to be an introspection on mental health and what people can go through and how you can rob yourself of power, hurt the people around you if you don't have a support system. Which, as I said before in the beginning, they used the Where Is My Mind song in the trailer, and my husband put me on to the fact that every movie we've seen, Mr. Robot, that's a show, the one with the woman that had the twin on the back, that's kind of spoiling it, but whatever. Every show or thing that we've watched where they use this song, it usually has to do with someone who has some kind of mental illness. And I at first thought it was really weird that they were playing that song, even though I love that song very much. Now in hindsight, because Bob has mental issues, I don't know if he's bipolar or just suffering with depression. It sounds like he has bipolar disorder, since he mentions really high highs and really low lows. But regardless, he has mental issues, and they play the Where Is My Mind, which kind of gave away the plot, that one of those people had mental issues, or all of them have mental issues. That being said, Thunderbolts felt like a mental health movie wearing a Marvel superhero skin. And again, there's nothing really wrong with that. And maybe it's because it's an abstract idea, and that's why it really resonated with me, but does that make it a good Marvel movie? Is it important for us to have good Marvel movies, or is it more important to have movies from Marvel that are good? I've heard some people say that Thunderbolts doesn't feel like a traditional Marvel movie. Is that good or bad? Does it matter as long as it's a good movie? And more importantly, why does Sam the Falcon care more about trying to sue this new group of friends because he copyrighted the name Avengers and going out there and keeping the place safe? And is Nick Fury not coming back? Is he lost in the depths of his alien punani? Because they're making it seem like Sam Wilson is the leader of the Avengers, or what's left of it. Why does he get to gatekeep who the Avengers are if they've always been adding people to the list, Sam himself included? They're not good enough, maybe because they were criminals and stuff. Anyway, jokes aside, regardless of all of that, I enjoyed the movie. Is it a movie I'm going to remember for the rest of my life if I never see it again? Probably not. But I will give Marvel credit for it making me like the characters and making the movie feel fun again. I only wish we had a little bit more breathing room for the characters, especially Bob, aka the Sentry, who they put back in the bag, and they explained it as Bob can't use his powers because for him to become Super Spawn, Satan, Santa Claus, Superman, it kind of comes with the whole depression arc and him erasing people from existence or putting them into the void, which that's cute, but if they don't use that later on somehow, that's gonna be really unrealistic. And of course, this also is a movie that segues into the whole Fantastic Four situation, where once again, we can't stop seeing this fucker's damn face everywhere, bro. Like, I'm getting sick and tired of seeing him everywhere. God damn. The frick is that? Ugh. Kind of like when we're seeing Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in every single freaking movie. Anyways, what did you guys think about Thunderbolts? Do you think it was a cute, fun throwaway movie? You're probably asking, hey, is this something that if it were to be in theaters or show up in theaters again, should I spend my money on it? I would, but I understand if other people don't want to. If you want a fun throwaway movie just to see it, then yeah, sure, go ahead. Am I stamping my feet cheering on for you to go and spend your money on this? No. Remember how I was telling you, yes, go spend your money and tell everybody else to spend their money and watch Godzilla -1? Not just because if you're a fan of Godzilla, even if you're not, it's an excellent movie. It's a must watch in theaters. I don't even think it's fair to compare, but this ain't that. Remember, I'm like, oh yeah, definitely go support Spider-Man No Way Home. And I still maintain that that's a great movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a fun movie, especially if you like the previous Spider-Man. That's basically how it functions. Thunderbolts isn't that. It's not Guardians in the Galaxy 3. It's not Loki Season 2. So no, I don't have the same cheery attitude about trying to encourage people to go and see it in theaters. What I will end on is, if you really like this movie, I encourage you to go out there and ask other people to come see it with you, because we speak with our wallets, and if it's something that you genuinely enjoy, even though it's not the greatest movie ever, then you should financially support it.
Sometimes I think you like getting punched. I'm invisible. I'm turning into you.